Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of the day with me. We're back with 30 teams in 30 days, and tonight we're going to the South Side to talk about the Chicago White Sox, who were fourth in the AL Central with a record of 60 and 101. Unlike the Kansas City Royals with 183 negative run differential, the White Sox outdid them with negative 200 run differential. Their offense was bad, but their pitching was even worse. They did also have Lucas Giolito, who was the only pitcher in MLB history to give up 8 earned runs in, I think it's like 1 inning or over a 3-inning period for 3 different teams in 1 season. So congratulations, you played yourself getting that trade. In any case, let's go ahead and get to the team leaders. There's no surprise that Luis Robert led the team in runs, doubles, home runs, RBIs, which was a tie, total bases, stolen bases, batting average, slugging, on base plus slugging, and WAR. Some of the other guys to lead in hits, on-base percentage, and walks was Andrew Benintendi. And triples, and the other guy he tied with in RBIs was Andrew Vaughn. Let's not forget that Jake Burger was traded mid-season, but at that point in time, he had 44 runs, 25 home runs, and 52 RBIs. So he was a pretty big contributor, and I bet he's glad to have gotten out of Chicago to go to someone who actually made the playoffs. And, we're close enough to actually get to the playoffs and not sniffing the bottom of the barrel. But in any case, I do want to talk about one of the biggest disappointments. I'm going to put my notes down because I don't need notes to talk about this. Tim Anderson Jr. Now, he showed so much promise in the years leading up to 2023. He was hitting in the mid 300s before he got hurt last year, and I actually made a trade for him before he got hurt. So I'm like, well, crap, that stinks. But in any case, everyone heard about the issue he had with Josh Donaldson, who was one of my favorite players. And Josh Donaldson, he's known to be kind of a turd. But Jose Ramirez? Nothing but good stuff about Jose, man. J-Ram, how you going to have an issue with him? Then get knocked out? Holy cow. I fell victim to the Tim Anderson hype, so hopefully you didn't, even though I'm sure people did. He just did recently sign to go to the Marlins, so that hopefully will be a good place for him. But man, when he was with the White Sox, he was showing so much potential. He was, giving the South Side something to look forward to when they came out to the ballpark, and he just fell flat on his face. A lot of that probably did stem from the wrist injury, but I feel so bad because he was good. He's a good young player. But, I mean, he's developing a little bit of an injury history, and now his bad attitude. I mean, again, Josh Donaldson, I can understand. J-Ram, can't understand that. As we talk about injury history, Eloy Jimenez has to be someone else we bring up. Now, he is a rich man's Andrew Benintendi. And I mean that because this year, 2023, he played 122 games, and that's the most games he's played in his career in any season. And in that same time frame, Benintendi had 200 more at-bats than him, but they had almost the same number of total bases, strikeouts, averages, but Eloy had more home runs and RBIs. So if you have an extra IL spot or have someone that you can have, in place of Eloy when he gets hurt and when he misses time, he could be a potential guy for you to draft. Now, I'm not going to say pick him early, but I am also going to say to make sure he's like a third, fourth outfielder at best. So now instead of just referring to Benintendi, we're going to talk about him, who led the team in 2023 with a 326 on-base percentage. He also had the most walks on the team with 52, and he led the team in hits. He can still steal some bases as he hit the 13 mark this year, and he doesn't strike out a lot. 89 strikeouts in 500 plus at-bats last year. It's pretty good. As he was developing in Boston, I hated it as a Yankees fan because he was doing so well. He had firepower around him in the lineup. He did have that protection. So when he was traded to Boston, I did see his production go down, but he's still very consistent. I do have him in a few of my leagues, so I'm excited because his consistency is going to be able to add up over the course of the year and hopefully lead me to a ship. Now, as we talked about last week, there is a very deep first base pool. So Andrew Vaughn should not be the guy that you're going to be going for early in the draft, but he can get you some home runs. He is going to get you some RBIs as long as people are on base, but he's going to come with some strikeouts. So He's a piece that you can look at, especially if you have a first baseman maybe like Jose Abreu, which I don't know why anyone would draft him at all anymore. But in any case, if you have him, Vaughn is definitely going to be a better option for you. As we transition from offense to pitching, this is going to be another no-brainer, as the pitching category leaders are led by Dylan Cease. He was the leader in wins, quality start, strikeouts, ERA, and WHIP. Now, when you hear that, you also have to think back to how disappointing the 2023 season was for Cease. It really was bad considering the expectations he built up for himself and the other White Sox fans in 2022. Now, as bad as Cease was, the bullpen was even worse. And the White Sox did nothing but get rid of all 6 of their best bullpen arms. Those bullpen arms, best one being Aaron Bummer, Joe Kelly, Ronaldo Lopez, Kendall Graveman, Kenyon Middleton, and Gregory Santos. So all 6 of those guys contributed in some way, shape, or form with holds, probably some saves, some Ks. They're all gone. So I don't know who or what is going to happen with the bullpen in Chicago. I guess they're just hoping for complete games the whole year, but I know that's not going to happen. So whatever you do, probably don't pick any White Sox pitcher. Maybe Cease, if it's a bargain. But there's very little production coming out of their offense, and even less from their pitching staff. Because we do have to talk about 2023 with them, Cease production took a nosedive. Lance Lynn could not find the strike zone, and when he did, the batter found it and it went out of the park. Mike Kopech. I'm very confused about him. He did have 5 wins, but he wasn't sure if he wanted to be a bullpen guy or if he wanted to be a starter. He wasn't good at either one, to be honest with you. Next pitcher we have is Lucas Giolito. I don't know whether it's good or bad that they got rid of him, because he was decent. He had a 3.7 ERA with them, but, you know, not the Giolito that we were expecting, really. And then he just got worse when we went to LA, and even worse, good Lord, when he went to Cleveland. So Clevenger was their best pitcher. He had 9 wins. He also did not qualify for the pitching stat, so 162 innings pitched. He only had 130, and that's sad because they absolutely could have used him for another 70, you know? So his 3.77 ERA, his 1.23 WHIP, he had 110 strikeouts. One pitcher probably can't carry the team, especially when the other 4 pitchers are crap in the bed. No bullpen, like we talked about before. They had 28 saves on the whole year. Their leading save getter, Kendall Graveman, with 8. So as bad as the rotation was, as bad as the bullpen was, there were some additions made through free agency and trades that the White Sox did make that bolstered it a little bit. First one, Mike Soroka from the Atlanta Braves in a big trade. We'll get to that departure in a minute. But Mike Soroka and Jared Schuster, both those guys will be able to be inserted into the rotation. I don't know how good they're going to do, but they're going to be some warm bodies. Also, Nicky Lopez, that is going to be a guy who can play around the infield, probably can play a little bit outfield, but had some bigger expectations, especially when he was in Kansas City, and it just didn't pan out. Paul DeJong played a major factor for the Cardinals down the stretch a few years ago, and it was here and there around the league, but I think he's going to bring some veteran leadership and will likely be the starting second baseman or shortstop for the team. I think would probably be the best because he has experience there and he's been to the playoffs. He can show them how it is to play, to practice, to look forward, to see something positive. So hopefully DeJong will be a key part of that infield, but also just of that the field house and of the locker room. Max Stassi is another guy they brought in. He's going to play second fiddle to Martin Maldonado, who is going to be the starting catcher for the Chicago White Sox. Stassi came from Los Angeles. Maldonado came from Houston. Very different looks, both like around them environmentally, but also in the locker room. Coming from the LA Angels, where you had Ohtani, where you had Trout, where you had kind of stardom, and then Houston Astros coming from, banging trash cans, World Series championships, and players who had very little morals, values, and ethics, to now Chicago, where you don't have a lot of good players. Maldonado is definitely better defensively, and Stassi is, I guess you would say, better offensively, even though Maldonado only hit 191 this past year. So neither one of them are Pierzynski or Carlton Fisk. Neither one of them is going to be world beaters, but they are going to be warm bodies that protect the umpire from getting hit with the ball whenever the pitcher throws it, if he finds the plate. So another guy that the White Sox brought in was Eric Fetty. Now, you may not remember him, but he played in the KBO this past year. Before that, he played for the Washington Nationals. So he was on the World Series team, didn't pitch a whole lot, but was on the team, made some stuff happen, decided to go to KBO, and he was pretty successful there. So he's coming back on a 1 or 2 year deal with the White Sox, which is great because I actually liked Eric Fetty. I thought he had some good stuff. But I don't know if it's going to transfer over to the White Sox organization. And now the only two real departures from the Chicago White Sox, two relievers. First one being Aaron Bummer, who was in a 6-man trade to the Atlanta Braves. The Braves sent up, some of those pitchers, a few position players, and 2 prospects. And Aaron Bummer is going to absolutely thrive in Atlanta. And the other one is Liam Hendriks. He's obviously recovering from his medical issues from the past few years. He just recently signed with the Boston Red Sox. So as much as I do hate the Red Sox, I do hope Hendriks does well, just not against my Yankees. So overall, just a few decent pieces, more streaming options when it comes to pitching. Luis Robert is going to be the guy in Chicago. Eloy Jimenez could be decent when he's healthy. Benintendi is going to be consistent. So those are really the main guys. I don't really know a whole lot. Vaughn, the first base pool is too deep. Yohan Moncada, disappointing the past few years. After his rookie season, man, he pulled the exact opposite of what Aaron Judge did. Aaron Judge had the great rookie season and then has only gone up. Yohan Moncada just gone down, man. Again, pitching wise, do not look at any bullpen guy for the White Sox because there's nothing there. Pitching wise, Cease might be the main guy, but again, very disappointing. And, even if he does pitch well, there may not be much offense behind him to help him. Clevenger might be a guy you look at in the rotation other than Cease. Otherwise, there's not a lot happening for the Chicago White Sox. I don't think they're going to win the 60 games like they did this year. I actually think the Royals are going to finish ahead of them, because there's a little more firepower and there's just a tad more excitement for me there in their rotation. However, our next episode is going to cover the Cleveland Platinum Level Health Insurance Team, aka the Guardians. This is Jay Cake, and I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.